two tattoo artists here, and then we have a few folks from Kaiser, a sponsor of the event tonight. If you have any questions specifically around mental health, the science behind it, please ask those questions. We have people here that can actually provide resources and answer those. We're going to go straight into the questions by doing a quick introduction. Who wants? Oliver, you have the mic first. You want to give it? You got trapped there. You want to introduce yourself and tell us about your history and how you got into being a tattoo artist?
Okay. Yeah. So I originally have a business and financial services background. After graduating business school in China in 2011, I made a very drastic decision to go into tattooing. For the majority of my professional career up until then, I was very depressed and unhappy, had substance abuse problems, alcoholic. Really couldn't narrow it down why. And eventually, just the act of leaving financial services and attending business school showed me that I did not belong in those spaces. And I was fortunate enough at the time to return to a childhood pastime of mine, which was sketching and doodling. And one of my classmates at the time saw the doodles I was doing and made a joke and said, you know, if you skipped undergrad, you'd probably be a tattoo master by now. And the reason he said that is because at the age of 18, I collected tattoos religiously, and my body was covered. So I never thought of art as a career because nobody needs to tell you growing up that you're going to be poor if you try to go into art. You just get that sensibility. I got this. I got that idea from him and thought about like why couldn't I become a tattoo artist? So I set out on this quest to become a tattoo artist in Shanghai, and I was lucky enough to meet a really great Chinese tattoo artist who taught me the craft, and eventually moved back to the United States and was blessed enough with this with a community and a family and friends to support me to become what I am today.
Thank you, Oliver. Before we move on, can you tell me what your first tattoo was?
My first tattoo?
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty lame. It's Chinese characters.
What does it say?
It says 7 star and sky.
Thank you. And Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine. Kind of similar to Oliver, I started working in corporate. I did data science for quite a few years, probably close to about 8, and then felt like I kind of reached the end of my career and reached the end of at least caring about my job, and just wanted to try something different, especially during COVID. Just looking for really just a hobby at the time, so I tried a few different things, trying to figure out what I can do just like my time away from work. So I tried like woodworking, I tried sewing, and then really found like drawing in the process. And then it was a bit just random, like as I took a drawing class, and I had a classmate who was trying to be a tattoo artist, and I kind of thought, like, I love tattoos, I have tattoos, why not? So I decided to give it a go, and I actually trained under Oliver. He gave me my start, so very grateful for that. But yeah.
And your first tattoo?
I have like a Bible verse on my rib because I like didn't want my parents to see, and my family is very like religious, so I figured if I got a religious tattoo, they wouldn't be mad at me.
And on one of the most painful spots?
Surprisingly not that bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but not that I'm not religious. It's just like a weird thing.
Nice. And Janice, you want to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure, yeah. Hi everyone, my name's Janice Yu. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor at South San Francisco Kaiser. I work on the adult team. Just a fancy way of saying I'm a psychotherapist. I provide mental health services to adults, couples as well, but I got into this profession. I studied psychology in undergrad, and I remember being so fascinated by stories and human connection, and actually going to grad school, I did it on a whim, and ended up learning so much about myself. Just a little bit about me, I grew up San Francisco native, Chinese American, and I also grew up with a family background where we didn't talk about our feelings, and it was really hard to talk about challenges and ourselves and connect with each other in that way. And I think going through grad school and learning so much about myself and other people, it's just been super inspiring. And so now the work that I do, I just feel so grateful that I get to see people, in their most vulnerable times, but also to see how resilient people are and to hold stories. It's really wonderful. And so really happy to be here to touch on the mental health piece.
Thank you. And I know you don't have any tattoos, but if you did have a tattoo and you got to choose, what would it be?
Oh man, I've thought about this, and so I totally understand the creative process of thinking about a tattoo, but I'm a big hiker. I ground myself through the outdoors, and I've always wanted to get this tattoo of a flower. I think it's called the white mountain flower, but it grows in high elevation in really harsh climates. And something similar. Yeah. But I feel like that has been a big representation of who I am, and so I'm still thinking about it.
It speaks to that resiliency piece, though.
Right, yeah.
Also, I've never heard someone say, I did grad school on a whim. That's like I'm going to go to grocery store on a whim, not grad school. But Dominique?
Hi everyone, my name is Dominique Nguyen. I'm an associate marriage and family therapist. I also work at South San Francisco Kaiser, but for the child and adolescent department. So I provide individual, group, and parent counseling. About the field, I got into it just because of my own personal background and experience with my family members, especially as a Vietnamese American. Kind of witnessed that we didn't also talk about emotions much, but I really observed as a middle child, kind of family dynamics and all of those things, and have always been really curious about human development and how our relationships, especially with parents, influence us. So that allowed me to get my bachelor's in human development, and then I also went on to grad school for counseling psychology to be a marriage and family therapist. That's a little bit about me.
Thank you. And you have a tattoo, right?
I do. So I have one, and I do like to share the story because I got my first tattoo in college. I think it was about 18 or 19, and I hid it from my family. But it does have great meaning to me because it's like the seed of life. If you guys are familiar with it, it's like the 6 overlapping circles, and it has a lot of different meanings in different religions or just different cultures about how life, everyone and every experience you encounter kind of incorporates who you are. So yeah, that's the tattoo I have in the back. It's sad that I can't see it, but
it's there.
Can you show it to us?
I think it'll be a bit difficult, but maybe later. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. My first question is going to go to Oliver. What challenges have you faced while tattooing, and how have you overcome that?
I think the hardest thing is for a tattoo artist is to get established and to find your own artistic voice. It's a constant struggle between making an income and tattooing what you want. And I think finding a place to do that is also difficult because if you don't have a large portfolio, you don't have a lot of experience, you have to work for somebody else. And working for somebody else, sometimes you don't get to do what you want. And I think the only way to get through it all was to persist and really ask myself with every piece that I was doing, are you doing this for the money, or are you doing this to advance your art, to get your creative voice out there, and then try to tilt more towards making decisions and spending time on designs and tattoos that really resonate with me.
Thank you. Same question for you, Christine?
So I think when I was kind of getting started, someone once said to me that the easiest part of tattooing is starting and the hardest part is everything else after that. And I definitely think that's very true for me. It's everything has been a challenge, from what Oliver said, building your portfolio, building a client base, learning social media, learning how to do photography, learning how to make reels, doing taxes even. I think everything is really challenging. I would say maybe the strangest challenge I face is coming from a corporate background and working with artists is a very, very different experience for me. I think there maybe can be like a lot of mental health challenges with some artists that definitely comes through. But definitely also kind of like the same, building like my own client portfolio and then just being able to focus on my own work and then remembering that what matters most is my clients and how they feel about the piece, and building that relationship kind of helps get me through.
Nice, thank you. And have you got to use your data science brain at all while tattooing?
All the time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like I think with drawing, because I started very new to drawing as well. Doodled a little bit growing up, but never really invested time in it. So I think even with drawing, like a lot of it is just analysis, like what do I need to do to get to the next place? And then to be honest, like when I'm doing my business work, like marketing and Instagram ads, I actually run a ton of analysis on that as well. So doing like A/B testing and running different campaigns and evaluating the like efficiency. So all the time really.
Got it. So you're still wearing both hats still?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. This next question is actually for Janice and Dominic. What are possible psychological or therapeutic benefits of getting or having a permanent tattoo?
Yeah, so Dominic and I talked about all the various benefits, and there's so many, right? I think everyone gets tattoos for different reasons, right? And some of the things that we talk about is, like, regardless of the intention behind the tattoo, there's always this commitment, right, to expressing ourselves in this way. And for different people in different, situations, it can be a means of self-expression, of processing certain life events, processing loss, grief, honoring certain relationships. And so in that sense, I think it really varies between people, but did you want to add?
Sure. Thank you, Janice. So some of like the interventions I actually think, like therapeutic interventions that I could kind of see going into the process of tattooing is even before you get the tattoo. There's a lot of self-reflection that goes on, and also around like identity, like thinking about what it means to you or how it's going to represent you in that moment in time. And then also intentional choice and decision making, which is something that, can be really difficult to do on like, how is it going to impact you now? How is it going to impact you later? To kind of commit, like Janice was saying, to this piece of art. Yeah, lots of therapeutic benefits, but I think a big one is just around like authentic self-expression and being really courageous and like allowing yourself to represent that in a creative way as well.
Thank you.
Then, sorry, I just want to add to that too. I mean, one of the things that I think about one of the things that we teach our clients a lot too is, journaling when we go through really difficult life experiences, and using journaling as a way to process, difficult life events, or have a different perspective on, something that we've been through, or even as a method of expressing our emotions. And I almost see tattooing very similar to that, right? Like we pick a piece and we dedicate our time and our identity to it, and that is our way of kind of processing, of expressing emotions, of getting in tune and better understanding ourselves. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Piggybacking off that question, this is for Christine and Oliver. When you're working with the client and you can obviously tell the piece is very important to them, how do you handle that? Like I feel like that's a difficult to be like the conduit of the person that's putting the art on the body.
I think the best that you can do as an artist is try to flesh out the intentions behind the art that people want to put on themselves, so you can figure out the best way to depict it. So a lot of questions, I guess, like behind what's motivating somebody, and I think that helps when you go and create a design that it's more personalized, that it is for them, and they do see that, and you have a relationship that's more than just transactional.
Yes, thank you, Christine.
I think for me, because I do quite a bit of flash pieces, so like pre-made designs, and a lot of them are customizable. So I do a set of like family porcelains, and it's really like the pieces that you had growing up and trying to represent that. So a lot of times clients already have like what they want, and so for me it's just listening to their stories and hearing more about it. I think for like a lot of the pieces that I do, a lot of times it's like you have like, to be honest, it's probably like some cheap porcelain thing that your like parents brought when they like came to America. It's not very nice, but it has a lot of sentimental meaning. And then a lot of times they break in the process, so they do a lot of like the broken pieces of porcelain as well. So it's really a lot of just like hearing their family story and like hearing how meaningful it was to just have this piece that reminds them of their heritage as well as their upbringing.
Thank you. And do you ever, follow-up question, do you ever like, is it ever emotionally weighing on you after like an intense session?
I don't think so. I think it's like, for the most part, most people have been like quite happy to get a tattoo. Like it's something they're really excited about at the end. So it's nice that I can share in their joy. I think a couple of times I have had clients who come in a very like emotionally raw state, and it's not always about the tattoo. Sometimes I also do like kintsugi tattoos, which has a lot of like tie-ins with like mental health and depression and growing and improving yourself. And so sometimes I do get that, but I think it's just, like for me, it's always just like a joy to give them a piece and then to hear their stories. And usually like, it's really just a nice experience for me, even if sometimes it's like,
A raw experience.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oliver?
When you say raw, you mean like physically taxing for?
I mean both emotionally and physically.
Like, and then, sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about how, people can come at a raw state when they're getting a very important tattoo or a very meaningful tattoo. And being present throughout that whole process of tattooing them, like, what does that look like for you?
So I have a running joke. It's that the tattooing costs money, but the therapy's free. So I do a lot of listening. When you spend hours and hours with a person, it's hard not to get to know them. And I think it's a two-way street. Like a lot of times I'm able to talk through some of the things that are happening in my life with someone who for the most part is not socially connected to most of the people that I know, and so I feel safe sharing and working through things with them sometimes, and being able to do that with a person, you have this bond. Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. And I guess this ties to, since you're an apprentice master over here, in what ways can tattooing foster a sense of community connection with others?
I can start. I mean, I think like even this like experience is very strong for that. Like Oliver like introduced me to their community, and also I see so many familiar faces between people I work with, people I have tattooed, and then just like really again learning about the stories of people. I think as like Asian Americans, a lot of my clients are Chinese just because of the type of work that I do. You really find that like I'm from the Midwest, even though we're all like in America, like in different places, we all have such similar experiences. So that's been like a really nice way to just learn from the community, and then we can also help each other, and also help each other out. So that's pretty cool.
What do you say?
Ditto. Cool. This one's for Dominique and Janice. How does the process of creating our leg tattoo serve as a therapeutic outlet?
Yeah, sure. I'll take turns. So this is also a question that we kind of thought through together, and I think a key factor that I kind of recognize is like I often tell families or whoever I'm working with that like emotions are a really big part of us that we can never make go away. It's just about managing it and making sense of it. And I think that that's exactly what like tattooing does. It's a creative way to like make sense of what you're experiencing. And I think it's even more unique because the person is deciding what image or what colors or whatever it is that they want on their body means to them. And it might make sense for them and not for other people. So I think that that's one way that it could be really therapeutic. And then also I think just the fact that, you're containing the emotional experience in an image, and it's something that you can look back on.
Another thing that I wanted to add is one of the things that we talk a lot about in therapy is this idea of like mindfulness, right? Which is really just awareness of the present moment, right? Whether it's thoughts that we're having or feelings that we're experiencing or emotions that are, residing within us in that moment. And I imagine like getting a tattoo, like it requires some of that mindfulness, right? You are in a room with somebody else connecting and going through both this mental and physical process where there's pain involved, right? And some of that is thinking about that pain and feeling that sensation on your body. And it's kind of like a metaphor for life, right? Like I'm getting this tattoo, I'm experiencing this pain in this moment, I'm learning to manage that pain and manage how I'm feeling this moment in honor of getting something that's really meaningful to me, right? And so I kind of think about that in the context of life too, right? Like we go through life's challenges and we experience hardship and we try to be as present and mindful about that so that we can move towards something that we care about, right? And so just kind of think a bit about tattooing in that way.
Perfect, thank you. My next question is for Oliver. No dittos on this one. What are some health benefits, mental health benefits that you've experienced through the practice of tattooing?
Through the experience of I think that when I tattoo, it like to echo what Janice just said, it does put me in the moment and allows me to focus what I'm doing and set aside like all anxieties, whatever I might be thinking about, and just be present. And I think that's very freeing, especially if you have a lot on your mind that you're trying to balance or deal with, and just giving yourself, it's almost like meditating, I guess. Like, yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. Yeah.
Do you find it in your personal life hard to stay present, and does tattooing help with that?
Sometimes, yeah. I don't actually personally go to therapy, so like I haven't talked about this before. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And Christine, same question. What are some mental health benefits that you've experienced through tattooing?
I think for me, kind of similar to Oliver, definitely being like very in the zone. I think for me, maybe I don't know if it's like a benefit or it's exasperating my like mental health disorders, but I think like for me, what I really love about tattooing is that like there really is no limit to the growth. And so for me, there's always something I can work on. There's always something I can improve on. And for me to have that challenge and to overcome like barriers in my like personal work creatively, or just like trying to figure out like a particular artistic thing I'm trying to like, I don't know, just skill up. I think that's really just rewarding for me. And then being able to work with clients and giving them a piece that they love, I think gives me a lot of fulfillment. And it's not something I experienced when I worked in my corporate job. It felt more like, why am I doing this? Like I'm working so hard for something I A, don't care about, and then B, probably gets like thrown away like at the next update anyways. And so I think to have like that fulfillment working one-on-one with a client and giving them something they can have hopefully for a lifetime is really nice for me.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up to questions for the audience. Did anyone have any questions for either the tattoo artists or our mental health experts? Right here?
I have a comment first. One thing I noticed during the discussion is that we center our tattoo or our expression pertaining to kind of resiliency to loss or hurt and honor, and I feel like that's a very innate Asian thing to do. And also just listening to you guys speak, Asian Americans don't really talk about their feelings, and I feel like that's also a reflection of why they really don't get tattoos, and that's also frowned upon.
Why'd you look at me?
What? Everyone looks at you, I don't see, bro. But I mean, this conversation really makes me want to get a tattoo or another tattoo. And just an example, like I know someone that got a tattoo of their mom's face on their arm. They're not Asian American, they're white, and people assume that his mom is deceased, but she's alive and well. And it's just his way of honoring the living, and I thought that was very unique to cultural differences. Yeah, comments.
That's true, because my first tattoo was from my aunt that passed away, and I don't think I ever fully processed it until I sat down in the chair and I saw myself getting tattooed. I'm like, oh wow, she's gone. And it was kind of like the first moment I realized that. So definitely feel that. Any questions or statements in the audience? Right here.
Hello, Sharks. I'm wondering how you balance putting your own spin and creating your own art and making sure it's something that is like on brand for you and what you are proud to put out into the world, and then also what people want, and like how do you kind of find the balance between that? Like what if they don't really like your style, or if there's like creative differences, and how do you keep it you, even if it's more for them?
I might have a different perspective than Oliver, but I think for me, like, oh, did I turn it off? Oops. Okay, sorry. So I think for me, I think when someone comes to like get a tattoo, they've already seen my portfolio, so most of the stuff is like relatively on brand for me. That being said, like, I think for me, I'm still developing my artistic style. I'm like, in my head, I feel like one day that'll stop, and I don't think that's actually true. Like, I think I'm really still trying to figure it out still to this day. So a lot of times when I take pieces, it's actually more just like, do I think that this is going to make me a better tattooer? And then some of that is building up my style, trying new things, but I do quite a few different things because I'm still trying to figure it out, basically. But I do kind of default to what the client wants. Like, it's your body, it's your tattoo, as long as it's like physically possible, and I think the tattoo will look okay in the end. I'm gonna let them kind of have to say. I don't want to be like too pushy about it because it's really their experience and like it's on their body. It's in a way I don't feel that it's my art. I think I'm just like helping them get it for themselves. Yeah.
So I'm different from Christine, so I'm super pushy. I like to gently steer people toward a couple aesthetic standards. Like, I like to tell people that I like to do tattoos that could be visible from a distance, that will age well, that will communicate effectively what they're trying to do. What they're trying to share with other people. And if we can't agree artistically, I will let people walk. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
What's the usual response to that when you let them? Are they surprised?
I think most people come in wanting some amount of like guidance and help, and I'm talking from a position of like logic and experience. So most people are willing to listen, but there has been times, yeah, when people have been like, well, this doesn't make sense. And I think most people nowadays do look at an artist's portfolio before going to seek out that artist, so they kind of know what they're getting.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I fall in love with the artist first and then figure out what I want to get from them at that point. Yeah. Any other questions in the audience? Right here?
So my question would be, myself also working a corporate job, but I felt like I'm not working on something I'm fully passionate about. I'm still thinking why I'm here, what I'm looking for, what's my life purpose. So I want to hear from your artistic journey or experience or therapeutical method, what your suggestion of like looking for something. How do you find your purpose? Any of the either experimenting, asking questions, or journaling. I would like to hear like what's your like suggestion there.
So just paraphrase like how Oliver came from finance and decided to like how did he finally make that decision?
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you like doing in your spare time?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking this question.
Like what do you do for fun? What is your hobby? How do you enjoy your time when you're not working, or are you always working?
I do love like doing a lot of like a workout, like going outdoor, indoor. Yeah.
So have you thought about how to take some of those things that you enjoy, like working out, and potentially like monetizing them somehow?
Okay.
Like maybe being like I'm not a career coach, sorry. Like maybe being a physical trainer, like, you know, or like there's opportunities to guide people outdoors. Like there's, you can become anything you want if you put your time into it. I don't know, does someone else have?
Tell us what we like.
You like ice cream. I don't like ice cream, no.
Do you want to add? One of the things that I think about, like in therapy, is we talk a lot about values and how values show up in our lives. And I think, you know, we come across, you know, a lot of clients, at least in my experience working with adults and like working adults, that, you know, a lot of people say, you know, I've reached this point in my career where I feel like I should be happy, I have the things that I want, right, like a family, a home, and whatever, and I still don't really feel happy. And oftentimes we kind of pivot to a conversation of like, what are your personal values, right? Like aside from what society is telling you to want, or what your peers or your family members are telling you what you should do, like what's important to you, right? Like is it connection? Is it being courageous? Is it having freedom of choice, right? But are those values present in your life right now, right? And if they're not, is there something else that I can do or explore that lines up with these values and how I want to live my life and how I want to show up in this world? And so we often tell people, at least, you know, with one therapeutic approach, that, you know, sometimes we think of like family and career as values, but maybe they're just domains in which our values are acted in, right? And so in that sense, it's like, what are those values? Like, what's important to me? Who inspires me? What inspires me? Like, what qualities of that person or thing is speaking out to me, and can I kind of lead with that, right? I don't know if that makes sense. It's a bit out there.
It's better than that.
It's digging deeper and asking the why and the intent, and not just like, I like to go, like you mentioned, like I like to be outside, like why does that bring you joy? And then figuring out why that brings you joy. And then that's really going to be your base, I feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Just trying to paraphrase. Any other questions from the audience? Oh, right here.
Thank you for sharing your stories. It seems that Asian cultures have negative connotations to tattoos. Did you have to overcome that? Has there been any challenges or conflicts around that with people you know or your family or background?
This is my husband, so he knows. And I think it's also maybe a little bit different just because knowing you, like you're third generation, like my parents are fresh immigrants and they're like super religious. So a lot of challenges, a lot of hiding my tattoos, and even hiding that I was a tattoo artist. So my parents didn't see my tattoos for the first time until just 1 year ago. Wow. And then, and then.
You've been a tattoo artist since 2020, right?
No, 2022.
2022.
Yeah, and then, even with the tattooing, I didn't tell them until probably close to about a year after I started tattooing. And I think, they're not super happy with me, but I think, like, I don't know, I think I don't live with them, so at a certain point it's just like, this is what I want to do, and that's what it is. And I think, like, maybe my prior career was following a much more traditional path, like doing the corporate career, getting my undergrad, getting my master's, and then I think I finished it and it was just like, well, now what? And then you kind of realize you have to make your own path, but maybe it helps that I live far away from my parents. So.
That does help. Yeah, they don't have it.
Yeah.
I would like to speak on that. My dad actually had tattoos, and that was pretty uncommon, I think, in our family. So it was kind of normal for me, but I always thought it was funny because the first tattoo that he got was a girl that he was dating named Amy, who was the same name as my mom. So he dated someone named Amy, got the tattoo, and just kept the tattoo when he married my mom. So I'm not sure if he married my mom because of the tattoo or it was just convenience. But fun little story there. Any other questions? Okay? I'll come to you.
Or I can use my teacher voice.
Use that teacher voice. I'll rock back.
Okay, so. Oh my gosh, I want to introduce myself. Okay, so my name is Faye. I am a teacher. I'm also heavily covered in tattoos from Christine.
Hell yeah. Walking portfolio.
Yeah, so my question to you guys is, being someone who's heavily tattooed, super interested in tattooing, and I'm a teacher that just finished teaching my unit on healing through trauma with my students. I was wondering how can tattoos be seen as an art therapy and also a healing experience for victims of trauma and also anyone who might be dealing with some sort of mental health issues. Perhaps for tattoo artists, is there like a piece that really stood out to you that was maybe related to someone's mental health or trauma that you kind of like really resonated with? Obviously, you don't have to like say too much personal information. And for Janice and Dominic, like, how can you see, I guess, using tattoos as a permanent art form, as a form of art therapy for individuals who may be actually marking themselves with something related to a not so happy experience, for example? Kind of a long thing, but yeah.
I guess I have the microphone.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
So I think for me, because I do a lot of like kintsugi type of tattoos, like that's.
Can you speak on that a little bit too, just so?
Yeah, so kintsugi is like, it's actually a much more a Japanese art form, so it's basically taking like broken ceramics and then either mending them. I think some people just do it for the art, so it's not actually broken, but maybe they break it on purpose to make it more artistic, but the idea is that the broken pieces actually wind up more beautiful because you are mending them with gold. And so it's often associated with like people's mental health process, and then I think it's referenced a lot in therapy. I think I'm also not in therapy, maybe I need it. So I have quite a few clients who get the kintsugi pieces as a representation of their mental health journey.
Yeah, so one piece that comes to mind is I had a client come to me for a piece following the death of her wife. And for her, it was a lot of sadness, but a lot of liberation because she realized post her wife's death how trapped by the relationship she was before. So she wanted to commemorate that with a snake shedding its skin. And that's always like stuck with me because normally you think of death as a very negative thing, but for her, it was trauma. It was unhappy, but she also realized how unhappy she was when her wife was alive as well. So yeah.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is that something I've heard, especially when in like grad school, like, I went to grad school here, so there's a lot of like Western like type of therapy or mental health values, and it's a lot of like focus on talk therapy, right? But talking is not the only way to express yourself, especially in like Asian American culture. There's so many different ways that we can have therapeutic experiences, and so I think like art and tattoos and symbolism can be a way to do that, where it can be a way that someone is making sense of the pain that they've experienced, and they might not be ready to talk about it, but maybe the visual or image or symbolism, like your client had, Oliver, it has, they're able to process it and have meaning for them in a way that could maybe make it more of a breakthrough. And then another thing that I was thinking about with this question is, I think it has a lot to do with acceptance, like acceptance of the pain or trauma or grief or whatever difficult experience, and being able to accept it in a way that's like digestible or manageable, or even for them to like reclaim it, right? Yeah. How about you, Janice?
That was a very wonderful answer. I think the only thing I would add to that is, I think with any trauma experience, it is helpful to have a community, right? To have people we can lean on and share this with and process, really hard times with. And I think the thing about having permanent art on your body is that it opens up these discussions, right? Like people see your tattoos and they ask you about it, and it gives an opportunity for you to share your story, right? To be vulnerable and to connect. That can be really healing for people with trauma who may, in their trauma experiences feel very alone. And so I think that community piece kind of is really there. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else.
Oliver with another ditto.
I'm just holding the mic. I know it's a trap. But
Thank you for the question. Any other questions? Perfect. Well, let's give a big round of applause to our panelists today.